Hi there, welcome back. It's nice to see you again. You may remember last week where we finished with the book, the reading of the book. Can I remind you? I hope you'll forgive my crackly throat. I'll take a drink of water from time to time. So a reminder of the last lines of the reading last week. I went back to the local school in Wales and waited until we would become a family again. And that day came towards the end of 1941 when we were taken on the train, not to London, but to a village, Stonehouse in Gloucestershire, where our next home was a cottage built on a track leading to the Cotswold Hills. A mother and her young daughter Maureen lived there, and let out a room to earn a little extra money while her husband was serving abroad. Looking back, it was an idyllic period in my life. I was reunited with my mother, and while living there, a baby sister was born. My father lived in Worcestershire, coming home every 6 weeks on leave, while working as a foreman on a site building a new hospital for the returning troops. I looked forward to him coming to see us. I'd sit on his lap when he was teaching me how to draw and go onto the hills to play with him and Tony. Life was bliss then. I was back with my family. I'd started the local infant school, my third school. My playground was the Cotswold Hills, where with the village children I spent my time gamboling down the hills, making daisy chains, taking sandwiches for picnics, and playing with none of the fears of bombings and separations that I'd grown used to. I was happy and content. I didn't know then that the clouds of change were beginning to gather and that my life was about to be thrown into turmoil again. After just a few contented months in Stonehouse, my father heard that he was going to be posted to the West Midlands, where cooling towers were being constructed. Wanting to be within travelling distance of the family, he found lodgings for us in a small mining town, Kennock, which had its own railway station, enabling him to travel to see us every 6 weeks. The landlady lived alone while her husband was fighting abroad, and like many wives managing unlimited incomes, she offered a home to evacuees in return for a weekly payment from the government. I looked forward to starting the nearby school, St Gregory's Catholic School, as the other children, like me, were all evacuees. Their school in Margate had transferred its headmaster, Mr Ivory, his 2 teachers, and all the pupils who'd been taken into a variety of homes around the area. The small Midland town offered refuge from the war activities, which were focused on cities and ports. The school was in the town centre, overlooking an ancient bowling green, and only a few hundred yards from where I lived with my baby sister, my brother and my mother. Unfortunately, after a month, the landlady decided that she didn't want children living in the house, and my mother had to find other accommodation. Some kindly neighbours were prepared to help. My brother moved into a family along the road. They were warm-hearted people who welcomed him into their home, but he cried to be with my mother. He was still only 5 years old and very attached to her. Having found a landlady who was prepared to take her and my baby sister, my mother begged her to take Tony in as well. I was placed with a family who had 2 girls, a little older than myself. I would be 7 in 1 month's time, and I was frightened of ghosts. Leaving the security of the lodgings I'd shared briefly with my family, the home that was found for me was a few minutes' walk away. There were 2 bedrooms in the house, and I was to share a double bed with 2 sisters who told me, "You must sleep on the side of the bed next to the attic door. Do you know there's a ghost up there?" When they told me about the ghost, I was frightened and cried. I was nearly 7 years old. The 2 sisters couldn't understand my London accent, which they often laughed at, nor could I understand the dialect of the mining town. I didn't feel as though I belonged there, and felt lost, with my only comfort going to school each day to spend time with the other evacuees. At school, I was sad at the end of lessons when my mother came to take Tony home, because I wanted to go with them. I couldn't understand why the war meant I had to live in a different house, but I was happy when my mother decided to take me away from the house with a ghost and find another home for me. A little girl 2 years older than me lived in the next home I was sent to. Her name was Sheila. Her father was a local butcher. There were 2 beds next to each other in the bedroom I shared with her. During the war, I had no storybooks, so I couldn't believe it when I saw that Sheila had a big box of Enid Blyton's Sunny Stories at the side of her bed. It was lovely to lie in bed at night and read one of the stories. Her mother Kitty and her father were very kind to me, which probably made Sheila a little jealous, because she told me, "You can't read my storybooks anymore." And she told her parents that she wanted them to send her away. It had only been a few weeks since I'd had my 7th birthday. It would have been nice to stay there, because I played in the fields with the children from the street and went fishing for tadpoles in the brook across the road. My school was quite a long way away, but I didn't mind walking across the fields to the main road that led to the school. It was winter time and I wore a siren suit my father had made for me to wear. When walking to school, it was very furry material and covered me right down to my feet and over my head. Many years later, my friend Irene, a niece of the butcher, told me, when I visited, they said, "Come and have a peep in the other room at the evacuee in a teddy bear suit." I packed my teddy bear suit into my small case as I got ready to leave Sheila's house. I waited for the lady who told me she was from the government. I didn't know where I was going to live next, but I hoped it would be nice. Waiting with my small case in my hand, I stood at the front door with a lady from the government. In my case, which I took to every new home, were 2 dresses, a cardigan, knickers, pyjamas and socks, and my teddy bear siren suit. I wore my only pair of shoes. When the door opened, a tall lady stood there, and the government lady said to her, "Mrs. Robinson, this is your new evacuee, June Necchi. She is 7 years old, and you must send her to the evacuee school in the town centre." I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for staying with me, and look forward to meeting you next week. Should I say bye for now?